Hi, welcome to my channel, Perceptive Truth. My name is Jennifer, and I like to talk about medical astrology, spirituality, and a lot of other things in between. So, if you're like me, you woke up on January 3rd and you saw what happened with Venezuela and Maduro, and that's a crazy thing that happened, but when something big like that happens, I like to see what's going on in the sky. And I knew it was a full moon on the 3rd. And I kind of hadn't been following the transits too much. So I pulled up my astrology chart. And so I knew it was a moon. And usually full moons are a culmination of something that might have happened at the new moon as well. So this full moon occurred in Cancer. And so like I said, I pulled up my astrology app to see, and immediately I noticed that this full moon uh, was opposing Mars. And so Mars is in Capricorn right now. And immediately I thought, okay, you know, uh, Mars represents war, or maybe not. Okay, so it can represent the acts of war, right? But it also represents aggression as well. So this was kind of like an aggressive act on the US, or the US was doing this aggressively to Venezuela, taking out Maduro as their president. So, anyways, let me show you that chart real quick. All right, so, oops. If you notice right here on this chart, the first house, you will see that. Oh, did I pull up? Oh, sorry, I pulled up the wrong chart. I'll show you that chart in a second. Okay, here we go. If you notice, Capricorn has Mercury, Venus, the Sun, and Mars. And right now, Mars is conjuncting the Sun. And the right opposite of the Sun is the Moon, which is what makes it a full moon. And that's in Cancer. So this Mars definitely helped bring in what was going on as far as like military action, uh, striking force, forcing, like the U.S. forcing its way into taking out Maduro and putting in. Well, I don't think as of recording this video, I don't think nobody else has taken their place, but you know, the president right now currently is saying, well, I think he had a speech and he said he was going to be taking over Venezuela. So I'm not really sure after that what's going on. But anyway, so because this was occurring and it's kind of crazy, and I don't know what's going to end up happening or if it's going to cause more issues down the road, which it seems like it will as of right now, but I guess we'll see. I also wanted to see what happened around the time of the new moon in Cancer, and if there was any kind of clues as to what might have been happening then, as in to what was happening on the 3rd of January. So let me pull up that chart real quick. Okay, so right here you can see that. Let me say that as well. So the new moon in Cancer occurred on June 25th of 2025. And it was occurring in Cancer, new moon. And if you see on this chart, it's at 4 degrees. And if you notice as well, I wish you could see you can't see my pointer, but if you look down on the chart, so Cancer right there is occurring in this chart on the first house. And you notice that There's Jupiter, the sun, the moon, and then there's that a thick blue line going to Mars, and that's a sextile. So a sextile is not as, I would say, like as harsh as like an opposition or a so a conjunction can make things, it can be good or bad. It can kind of like make things a little bit more, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say is, but like it can make things more intense, I guess is a good word to say. When something is like when thing like when planets are conjunct each other, they are combining all of that energy together, and it can make something more intense, or it can work for you, it could work against you. It just kind of depends, right? So but because it's a sextile on June 25th of last year, a sextile doesn't make things more intense. It kind of just, it's a more easier transit. It's not as positive as like if it was a trine, but a sextile is still good, and things may blow over or not be as intense. It could have a good outcome in the end, as long as people are working towards a good outcome. But generally speaking, a sextile is not going to bring something like bad or intense or anything chaotic or anything like that. So, because I was just trying to figure out what happened, so I just pulled up headlines that had happened on June 25th of last year. And one of the first things I noticed was that it feels like forever ago now, but the U.S. and Iran had that Trump and his administration had just, so the weekend before the 25th, they had just did that military strike in Iran. And if you remember, they claimed that they hit Iran's nuclear facilities. So it turned out that, yeah, they might have, but in the end, it didn't really do anything because, first of all, they were already informed that they were going to be hitting those areas. So if you remember the news back then, I think whatever Iran's officials had already taken all of their equipment, and I guess if they had any kind of nuclear weapons or anything, they had been taken out by then. So by the time that they had, did their military strike, everything was gone, and they had like shown videos of it and everything. But if you notice right here, you can see like a quote from Trump saying that it was one of the most successful military strikes in history, and that it was completely destroyed. But in the end, it wasn't. And now, like after that, they were saying that Iran was probably going to be upping their nuclear creation in that area. So it kind of, so that shows like, okay, so the Cancer new moon last year showed that there was a military strike. Of course, it wasn't to the same place. You know, just well, today's the 4th, so just yesterday, this happened in Venezuela, so it's like not in the same area, but it is still some kind of military strike. And so I was kind of like, oh wow, that's an interesting culmination for Cancer moon. And here in a second, I'll explain, because you wouldn't think that Cancer would be something that would cause war, but of course there's Mars in the mix, so that kind of intensified it, like I had said earlier. And another thing I noticed, which I didn't realize at that time either, but of course Zoran Mondani, on, I think it was June 24th, so it was just a day before the new moon, but he had won the primary to be the mayor in New York City right at that moment in time as well. And I thought, oh wow, that's so interesting because he just became the mayor in New York on the beginning of January 1st. So it was just a few days before the full moon, but I just found that interesting as well. And if you follow politics or anything, you know that this was like a really big deal and it was a really big change for New York City. So everybody's kind of wanting to see how a Mayor Mamdani is going to change things up in New York. So there's that, and there was other things just in this little article mentioning like, Homeland Security, heat wave, and Doge. But so just those two things, the U.S. Iran military strike and then the New York City mayoral election, I thought those were two things that really did become a culmination in this full moon that we just experienced in Cancer yesterday. So, what I kind of wanted to talk about now was Cancer. So, the meaning of Cancer, or what Cancer kind of represents, is home or family, or like mama bear, being a mother, a really protective mother. And so, and then Cancer being a feminine sign and a water sign, it's not something that you may think is a sign of war or, contention or military or anything. And so usually it doesn't, but like I said, Mars is mixed into that as well. So it kind of intensified a part of Cancer that is not necessarily good or bad. It's just the energy of Cancer, which is, maybe protection, or sometimes like nativism, or patriotism can be considered Cancerian because it's your home. Like maybe in the president and his administration, or there's like a whole bunch of things that it can represent, and I don't know what they're thinking, to be honest, but like it can be where they're really wanting to protect what they consider their own, which they have said is the Venezuela oil. And so it was just the right mixture, which is kind of crazy, on how the full moon was opposing Mars, and then Mars is conjunct the sun. So it's just kind of interesting how that just culminated into what just happened and what we just witnessed on the US stage. And and also, like when I was showing you the chart for June 25th of 2025, you also noticed that Mars was in the mix there. But like I said, it was a sextile, and usually sextiles aren't a really aggressive transit. And so it was showing at the new moon that there was some type of military action happening then. And then now there's a military action that just happened, taking out Maduro. And then now we really don't know where it's going to head. So there's just different transits that we can possibly look to in the future, especially like when the eclipses start happening. And I think it's going to be in Pisces. I'm not sure right now. I don't have that information in front of me, but maybe we can look to that later on to see if something more may occur, or especially with eclipses, because sometimes eclipses really make things happen very quickly in like the eclipse season. So that could be something else that could wrap up things on and what's going on this year. Anyway, so I just wanted to come on real quick and show those charts, show what was happening with the full moon, why a full moon in Cancer could also mean military action, um, especially if it's kind of being like the energy is being used as a way to, protect your home, or and in this sense, it's the country. And so yeah, anyways, I just I just wanted to put that out there real quick and show you. And it's just something I found really interesting when I was looking at the astrology and the transits yesterday. And so, everybody, stay safe, take care of yourself, um, make sure that you are trying your best to keep yourself calm, and try to calm down your nerves and any anxiety you might be having. I know it's a crazy time, and last year was crazy, and here we are again, and just experiencing really, really crazy things. So take care of yourself, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Love you. Love you all. Okay, bye.